Doctors typically use an X-ray to define what's inside of a patient. In a close examination of these two fighters who will find themselves facing off this coming Saturday, October 15th, Deontay Wilder and Robert Helenius, results are in. Let's take a look. The heavyweight division can always provide boxing supporters with something exciting. Whether it is just the size of two big men going at it, giving to and fro, whether it's the display of courage and machismo, the ability to dig deep, persevere, break through, or even if it's the sheer power that two big men over 200 pounds can provide a viewing audience, it's always a bit of excitement. And this coming Saturday, October 15th, we will see the return of Deontay Wilder since his trilogy fight against Tyson Fury, coming back against Robert Helenius, a showdown of two heavyweights who are seeking something different in their careers but are going for the same goal. And the goal is to reach the top of the mountain. These two men are familiar. They are familiar due to working behind the scenes in preparations for fights against other parties. And they're familiar because they've been circling one another in the heavyweight division. Even when Wilder was champion, Helenius was on the horizon. So now that the two men are facing one another for the first time professionally, where it counts, entering the ring with a record of 42-2-1 with 41 KOs is Wilder. Helenius is coming in with a record of 31-3 with 20 KOs. These two men now have to put it on the line for competitive sake. And what do you think will happen? Let's talk. Helenius, who had his last loss against Gerald Washington coming in July of 2019, an 8th round KO stoppage. Something that comes to mind about these two facing off is the familiarity factor. Deontay and Helenius now have both suffered defeat. When Deontay reigned as the WBC heavyweight champion, there were a number of men who weren't so willing to quickly get in the ring with him. But of course now, because he has shown vulnerability and losses, you'll find opponents maybe stepping on up for the opportunity a little bit quicker than they may have just a couple of years ago. And that's fine, because in the time that Deontay has suffered his losses, taken time to regroup and decide whether or not he would come back and try this again, the teaching never stopped. So the lessons that he learned from suffering defeat, how to bounce back from it, and also how to consider what his future means to himself, gets a chance to be brought front and center. So therefore, modifications and adjustments are necessary. And this is where we've seen him in training footage come out and start looking like a new fighter. Now, of course, putting new lessons learned into effect in the ring call for discipline and also focus to be able to stay of sound mind with your game plan going forward. But understand the great thing about this fight for Wilder facing Helenius, it's not a grudge match. He is not necessarily emotionally invested in this. He's professionally invested in this. A big difference. Sometimes that's why fighters take a fight in between losses before going back against the person they lost against. For Helenius, he too knows of this. He, after the loss to Gerald Washington, had a series of fights where he's been able to be successful, including 2 KO victories over Adam Kalnaki. And in those fights, Helenius was able to work on some things that put him in a better place and space in the ring, using his size, his reach, and his jab. He was able to come to success against Kalnaki by basically pounding him and controlling him, everything off of the jab, the left hand. That is going to be a tremendous factor in this heavyweight battle between these two men. The left hand. Both have been able to use it to their advantages against opponents, but neither have used it in an effective manner where it is integral to what the immediate game plan is. And guess what? I believe in this particular fight, they will both start out with this, but it is the man who is able to stick to the game plan that's going to have the edge. Wilder's jab is a piston when he elects to use it properly, just as Bermane Stiverne, who encountered it in their first fight, where Wilder was able to box his way to victory in a manner that many people didn't give him credit for. Even in his first fight against Fury, Fury remarked about Wilder's jab early on and was amazingly impressed when he told his cornerman what he was feeling after the first couple of rounds. Also, the benefit of utilizing this jab for both men will mean that they will have the opportunity to hide the right hand, which will be the ace punch in this fight for someone going for the KO. But I believe Wilder hiding his right hand behind his left jab will set up other opportunities, and he has to be primed and ready for this. I would love to see the fact that the champ, former champ, can come in there and work off of the jab, utilizing his lateral movement, his footwork, which is there, people. And we've seen glimpses of it in fights in the past, but not enough of it to be impressed. So, new wrinkles are necessary. And when you think about Helenius, we know that if he studied the film of Fury's third fight with Wilder, the success of Fury landing his right hand on Wilder is what Helenius may feel that he can actually imitate. But will Wilder be there for that? The discipline of being mobile and utilizing the ability to now box a little more off of the back foot will show us whether or not Wilder has learned some lessons and is ready to move into another situation. Also, countering right hands. You usually don't like to do what the other guy does best, but if you can be first and or last, it can be impressing on the opponent and make them hesitant to not want to go there. So will Helenius look to use counter rights as a tactical means of offsetting what Wilder does? One thing that these men have to understand is neither of them should be waiting to see what happens. They should not lay back. Both should be aggressive. And that's where something else tremendous comes into play here. Because with aggression, you have to be focused. You also have to be mindful of the pitfalls that the opponent is setting for you. So, though the counter right hand may be in each fighter's mind, they have to consider something else still. And that is where the real adjustment to the adjustment in this fight between these two warriors comes to prominence. We know Wilder's right hand is a bomb. It can detonate and blow an opponent out of the water at any given time. But, as I've often stated about Wilder as a fighter, if he begins hooking off the jab, if he begins to mix in the left hooks as part of the arsenal, not just as a reactionary punch, but as a means of attack, it can cause a person to forget about the deadliest of weapons of which we know of him, the vaunted right hand. I've stated, I believe Wilder can punch equally as hard with his left. It has just been underdeveloped. And then if he mixes it in as part of the arsenal, you do not know from which place the power is coming. So, from what we've seen of the footage released of him returning to training, we've been able to see the champ be more mobile on his toes, moving backwards away from a simulated circumstance, throwing punches and getting out of the way at the same time, throwing punches in combination. And how about this? Dropping the excessive weight that he tried to put on for his third fight against Fury, where it didn't work to his advantage. We like the champ lean and mean. And when he is lean, he can get out of the way and he can close the gap so much quicker. Think about it. It is to his advantage. So, as we begin to come into focus about this fight, will Robert Helenius have enough of something to challenge Deontay? He typically comes in somewhere with the high 230s to almost 250 pounds. If he comes in more than that, it is definitely not going to be advantageous for him. I would think that he may want to settle in the mid 240s. He and Wilder are about the same height, maybe a half an inch taller he may be than Wilder. But Wilder has a longer reach. I believe Helenius's reach is 79 inches, but Wilder has a 83-inch reach, and that's nothing to dismiss. He can get there, people, and if he's lighter on his feet, if he's more inspired to move and be athletic in there, he can cause true nightmares for the Nordic nightmare. And this will assist Wilder in returning to what we've known of him, to be that unorthodox killer with a big bomb. And this exception is that not only will he be blowing his subject out of the water, we may see him do it with a different punch this go round. Think about it. This is Stormy B. Man. Shout out to the LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know what you think about this video and what's coming this Saturday, October 15th. Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.